today I have a very good friend of mine, Sartaj Hans. He a couple of days ago we were in touch about setting up this conversation, and he texted me and said, "Do you want to go through some questions beforehand, like discuss over email?" And that's not exactly how I do it, so I was a little concerned. But obviously the guest, he's the star, so I thought, okay, absolutely, let's do it. And Sartaj sends me this killer list of topics, and I am just so fired up for this conversation because this man is really thinking deeply. He's prepared. He's gone out to the store and gotten himself a proper headset that he immediately got rid of during sound check. And here he is. This guy, one of my favorite bridge players, Sartaj Hans.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. And particularly, so we actually talked about, I had reached out to you about having this conversation prior to the summer NABC. And I think maybe you said something about, you had a premonition about, you guys got to the semifinals of the Spin Gold, which is quite an accomplishment. And so it's really cool that we waited. And anyway, congratulations on that. I was rooting for you all.
Yeah, thanks. Look, it was a pretty good run, and it was, it was quite good. We've been playing as, not exactly the same group, but a very similar sort of group of players over the last year and a half or so. And this was probably all of us together as our best run as a team. And sometimes things just come together, and it was quite nice. Yeah. I mean, even now, I feel like, I usually come back from these U.S. Nationals with all the travel and all the waiting, for flights and, waiting to get ready. You usually feel exhausted, and it takes you a couple of weeks to get back into so-called normal life. But this time round, I've come back and I'm like, oh man, I'm missing my bridge already. It's not, there was no sense of exhaustion, or there was just a sense of enjoyment from the whole process. And yeah, I really have good memories of it. And hopefully we can do more of that, because it's a bit like, a tiger, as they say, has a kill. When a tiger, tigers are afraid of humans. It's not very well known. It's when they have their first kill, suddenly they get a taste. And we've had we've done damage before, but a result like this certainly gives me personally a lot more belief about how much more deeper we can go, and how we belong in there and can hope to do well.
And just in case the listeners don't know Sartaj, he lives in Australia, originally from India, but he lives in Australia. So it's not just a 2-hour flight from Richmond to Chicago like it was for me. I did have to drive an hour each way.
Oh yes, an hour. Great, John. I mean, I have to drive 2.5 hours before I get on a plane, and that's before the 30-hour. Look, anyways, it's all fun. It's the U.S. Nationals are it's just fantastic how they're open to everyone, and the quality of competition is so high. Typically, before I started going to these nationals, we would you'd have to qualify for the Australian team, and if you did, you would get to go to 1 or sometimes 2 tournaments in the year. That's the World Championship and the Zonal Championships. This time once sometimes when you don't make the team, then you just sit at home all year round, And whereas with the nationals, there's 3 of them a year, anyone can go, so it's and everyone is there is also the point. There is anyone who's anyone amongst the elite players. is there, and the level of competition is great. So yeah, I love it. I love going there.
And we've played on teams before, actually, going back like 8 years ago, I think it was, in Las Vegas. I had my first big win in one of these knockouts in the Spin Gold. We beat the Kane team.
Yeah, I was trying to remember that the other day. There was Loria Versace, and who was the other professional player? Was it Bassis?
Lorenzini and Bassis.
Right, right. So this is the foursome that just won the last Spin Gold, right? No, sorry, it was Versace and Samantha, but more or less all Italians seem the same, sound the same.
Oh, wow. Wow, I didn't realize that.
And yeah, John, you and Sam Lev and me and Peter, and we upset the Jimmy Kane team. That was a great result, wasn't it? It was such a thrill. It was such a thrill.
Such a thrill. Such a thrill.
And then we played, Alex and Joseph, who were later confirmed as being a cheating pair, and that ended our run. So I have good memories of that event, and
so that event was in Las Vegas, and we played in a four-way in the first round, and we were up by like 50 in the first half against the Chinese team, and they came back and beat us.
Really?
16-board match, came back and beat us. And I remember going back to my room, and you called me, and you said the higher-seeded team also lost. And to, prepare, I think it was, I remember Hub Bertens was on the team. But you're like, get ready. This is not just, you need to be ready to play, and I think that was helpful. I think one of the things that you emphasize here is the role of belief in bridge in your email, and I think I liked that about that you were thinking about just being mentally prepared to and we beat them. We beat them, I think, pretty comfortably, and then we won the next match. I don't remember who it was, but the funny thing about beating Thomas is for a long time, whenever I saw Thomas, I would talk about it. I would bring it up. And I see him now, and I just laugh to myself because there was a time when I would have been like, wow, we beat you.
Knowing Tomas, he'll probably be a pretty good sport about it.
Yeah.
He's always got a smile on his face, and yeah. No, right. I didn't recall that. But to your point, the belief element, I think it's important. I mean, I did some sessions with a sports psychologist about a year and a half ago, and he was more a golf guy.
Yeah.
But pretty much a lot of the things he said were relevant to bridge as well. And he was the one who even introduced this concept to me, the concept of belief, what it means and how a lot of the top competitors, how they channel it, how they nurture it. You have to work on it. And, I learned that from him. One of the points he made, which may be of interest to your listeners, is that he said, it's no good just saying to yourself, I'm great, because things like that sort of stuff can easily, under pressure, or something goes wrong, it can be punctured. It's like a balloon, right? It can be punctured. You go down in some baby three-note trump where you sort of forgot that the guy discarded a heart, and suddenly you feel like. We all have those feelings, and I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I've been playing this game for 25 years. Things like that, they're just totally normal. And he introduced us to this concept of the 4 pillars of belief, that you've got to have 4 discrete elements which constitute your belief, so that whenever it gets shaky, you can remind yourself the 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, one of them could be, remember the time we beat the Jimmy Kane team up in Las Vegas with John and Sam Lev. That could be, it's like a memory. Another thing could be, a thought about, a specific thought about how, you've done all the work, you've done all your training, you've done this, you've done that. All of that has made you who you are. Things like that. Everyone has their own, and he had a session with our team, and he introduced us to this concept, and we all came up with our four. In fact, one of our pillars at the time, one of our teammates mentioned. He said, "Well," the question was, "What's the pillar of belief for the Australian team to do well?" And one of the players said, "Well, just look at New Zealand. They are our next door neighbors. Look at how well they've been doing." And it makes some sense. If those guys can, then why can't we? I mean, they are not that dissimilar in individual ability. New Zealand as a team have done fantastically well, especially a few years ago. They were doing, even this year they almost won our zonal championship, which Australia, but they came second. But neither of our countries has won for a long time. So just things like that. That I found that some things I picked up from Matt Howe, who was my sports psychologist for a while, to be quite useful. Yeah.
So how does it work then? Like how does it work when you go down in a baby 3-no trump? Like what do you?
Well, you feel horrible. Like there's a whole swamp of, emotion. When it's a baby one, I've been trying to, there's a new thing I've been trying to come up with, is a framework, which is how to categorize bridge mistakes. And I think the terminology we use is very poor, because there's so much luck, and also the quality of the problem varies. So the recent thing I've been trying to kind of talk to myself in terms of is like there's three kinds of things. First of all is the blunders. Blunders are just clear, categorical. There's just no doubt.
Right.
And then are errors, and errors are where your instinct is to, you always call your partner does anything wrong, and you just want to call it a blunder, but it's not always a blunder. Often it's an error. It's a close call. You were onto something. You didn't totally pooch the hand, but it was an error nonetheless. In objective hindsight, you just realize that it was a clear error. And then are the what I call mistakes with a question mark, and which is, everyone tells you it's wrong, and you probably feel it's wrong, but you're often biased by the result. It's very hard to be objective in bridge. I'm like almost every post-mortem is just rubbish. People just make up stuff. And just to bring certainty. Like that's another. There's this guy whose blog I read. And he talks about life and financial markets and things like that. And he says people crave certainty. And in this sense of having the certainty of, let's say bidding 3 hearts is the correct bid.
Yeah.
We often forget that the situation is ambiguous. It's not really clear. 3 hearts happen to work on this hand. The 4 hearts, the bid that you did make, that did get doubled and it did go for 800, isn't totally nuts. It had some upside. So the 3 categories: blunders is clear mistakes, I suppose. Errors, which are not totally clear, but in hindsight, if you're objective, they are. And then mistakes is a question mark. Mistakes are often 60-40 kind of calls. So that's I don't know how we started talking about this. That's a terminology I've been trying to adopt. But it's been hard because no one else is interested in talking like this. So, you're just talking, talking to yourself. Yeah.
Well, this is the part where I like to show off the research that I did.
Right.
And I looked at your matches in the Spin Gold, and I saw that you came back in the fourth quarter to beat the Spectre team.
All right. Or did we come back? Was it close though, right? It was single digits from. Yeah.
I think maybe I'm wrong, but I do know for sure that you had some good. You had some good boards early on in the last segment.
Right. Yep.
Of 15 boards, and then on the last hand of the match, Andy played 3-0 when the other table played 4 spades, which was I think a much easier contract to make.
Well. No.
Am I wrong
No.
about that?
So they could have defeated 4 spades, our teammates.
Oh, could they?
And Andy had a chance to make 3-0 trump. It was very tricky, but he had a chance. And both things went wrong for us. So we lost 10 imps on the hand, whereas we had an opportunity to win 10. There was 3-0 was clearly better, but we didn't manage.
Oh.
Our teammates got a bit active in defense. I think. Look, that's my memory, and again, I'm not totally sure if that's fully objectively true. But Nabil and Michael Wibley on the Spectre match day, they had a very good day. I had a few ropey hands. It's just. You think and you think and you think, and then you do something and it's bad, and you just feel like even bigger idiot. If you do something quickly and you do it bad, at least you go, oh well, I should have thought some more. But if there was a hand I took about 10 minutes to think on defense, and I got it wrong, then you feel like even bigger idiot. But Nabil and Michael Wibley had a great day that day. Well, when I told them at the end of the day, hey guys, you were great today, they started laughing. I was like, what? They're like, well, we know how much, this was their words, it's that we know how much we left at the table, So, yeah.
But okay, just like going back to this, the last board of the match, it's a close match.
Yeah.
And, Andy goes down in 3-0. Did you think that might be the difference?
No, I've actually I'm relatively good at not paying too much attention when I'm dummy. Sometimes you can't help it, especially with tablets. Don't even recall if I saw how the play went. Look, we all know it's good not to pay attention when you're dummy, but we all can't help ourselves. Whereas with tablets, it's a lot easy. You just get up, you go for a walk, get a glass of water, go to the toilet, do anything. So I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that he could have made the 3-0 trump. But I had a sense the match was close. It felt close. Our opponents had missed a slam that Nabil and Michael bid, and then there was a close, vulnerable game. And all of us, we love bidding disgusting games. Everyone likes bidding close games, but we are all especially bad at this. Don't like missing them. So I had hopes of those sort of boards, but to be honest, I just was looking forward to the score up, and might have even seen the score. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, I think I came outside. I walked outside, and I asked someone what the score was, and someone told me we were leading by 20. And I said, how many boards to go? They said, 1 board to go. And I thought, well, 3-0 from down 1. We can't be losing 20 here. The teammates would have to go for 2,000 or something. So I guess I knew that, everything.
Because it's not the same with tablets, because your partner's not there and you're not turning the cards as dummies. You're like... you have the opportunity to. I mean, who knows? I don't know where your partner was in this case.
Yeah, I think you just go dummy does whatever they like. And speaking of tablets, I really enjoyed the experience. So here he goes, John. So to our listeners, maybe we should educate them. Why are you laughing? It's because I said to John, just try to bring up the subject of tablets, all right? I feel very passionate about this. Just try to,
That was his first bullet point. And also, I'll point out for you all that today's Wednesday, August 9th, and he said, I've written up a Bridge Winners article, which they hadn't published yet. Well, they've published it since.
Yeah.
So that is up, and absolutely hope people will continue to weigh in based on what you have to say. That it's your platform, sir.
Right. Well, I feel that bridge is a game of cards and should remain a game of cards for the vast majority of players, social bridge, even tournament bridge. But when it comes to the very elite levels, the last round of 32 onwards in the knockout tournaments, or maybe even the World Championship play, the Bermuda Bowl, things like that. When it's really elite competition, having played on tablets the first time, I just saw how amazing that playing environment was. Not from the point of view of your own comfort, because it takes a bit of getting used to, and I think we all did a few things that maybe we wouldn't have done with cards, or at least it's a nice new excuse. But I feel like at the top levels, there's a lot of unauthorized information that goes around in bridge. And the stronger the player you are, the more sensitive you are to it. You just know little things happen and you just know what's going on. Now, in theory, so-called ethical players, do not use any unauthorized information that comes from partner. And only unethical players use it, and they are the naughty ones. And I think that model is very simplistic and it's unreal. There's a whole spectrum of possibilities and opportunities and, situations that come up. And maybe some people won't like me saying this, but I think we are all on the spectrum somewhere. The spectrum being from the egregious, let's take advantage of every situation we can, let's help partner out by just bidding a bit slowly, or leading a bit slowly, or let's make a deliberate, conscious effort to generate UI so partner is helped, and let's make a deliberate, conscious effort to take advantage of this UI to the extent that it's almost systematic. That's the one end of the spectrum. And to the other end of the spectrum, there is no other end, isn't some great ethical player who's just super clean and totally oblivious to UI, because I feel like it's there, it's everywhere. It comes through to you, and if you say, you never get impacted by it, you're kidding yourself. It comes to you, but perhaps on the other side of the spectrum, it's someone who tries not to generate UI when he in any tempo-sensitive situation tries their level best not to, doesn't always manage it, but tries their best. When partner presents UI, they're aware of it and they try their active best not to use it. But the reality is all the bridge players are somewhere in the middle. Some are more towards the acute end and some ones are more towards the soft end. And it's especially relevant at the top levels where small things, one lead or one slam auction could be the difference between victory and loss. And so the obligation on the community is that we should be reducing the likelihood of these situations. By UI, I mean unauthorized information, which is things like, a partner makes, we had one of the situations came up, you make a slam try, partner makes a cubit, and then you go instant sign off 4 spades. So that tells partner you had a very marginal slam try and you need the absolute perfect hand in their hand to make a slam. and the very top players are very sensitive to this. And you've got a slow, whereas these sort of events need to be stopped in some way. And in theory, with the bidding trays that are used, the screens and trays that are used at the elite level can be used to bring in some controls, but it doesn't really work. To me, it doesn't work. I have seen plenty around me. The first time I became aware of it, to be honest, was in 2011. We were playing the World Championships. It was the World Transnationals. We didn't qualify in the Bermuda Bowl, then we got to the final of the World Transnationals, and we played the great Lotan Fisher and Ron Schwartz, who were, again, another player subsequently discovered to have been cheating. And we were playing with screens. So in theory, if, let's say, someone makes a fast bid, their screen mate can hold the tray on their side of the screen.
Yeah.
And so the other side would not know who was taking the time. Or the other side doesn't realize that that bid was a fast bid. The other side might think that the bid was made in regular tempo. But what they were doing is they would grab the bidding cards when they were bidding like 3-note trump, make a very soft noise, plump it there, and it was totally obvious to the other side what was going on. There was one hand, I remember in particular, some guy had like a 20 count with king, queen, jack to 5 spades. So, and the bidding went something like 2 hearts on his right, he doubled, 3 hearts on his left, pass, pass, he doubled, pass. His partner bid 3 spades. It was an insta 3 spades bang, and the guy just passed it.
Wow.
I mean, you just can't do that. It's very helpful when partners goes instant 3 spades, and they got absolutely nothing over there. And maybe they also had some other message they were sending at the same time, that I wasn't privy to. But that was the first time I became aware of some of these trickeries that go on behind screens. And over the years, I have seen a lot. And some of it may be just unconscious. You just get used to it. Or some of them, it's conscious, I don't know. But in any case, coming back to our point, with tablets, such things are, A, they are reduced, and B, when they occur, it's clear to measure them. It's just like in chess when back in the day you played a 40-move game, they used to record the time. I took 12 minutes for this move. I took 30 seconds for this move. All that information was available publicly. People had no interest in it, so it just died out as a trend. But with bridge, I think all this information is recordable. It should be recorded. How quickly did XY pair lead all of their singletons, and how slowly did they lead their doubletons, for example. That information should be in the public domain. And, when you have hundreds of hands, you can, make your own conclusions. So, yeah, I'm converted on the tablets, and I hope they become the norm in high-level play, and high-level play only. Yeah. How did you play on tablets at the Spin Gold?
No, we lost in the round of 64, but I have played in the U.S. trials on them in 2 different occasions. It's slightly different setup because you're in a hotel room just with your screen mate, which is very nice, but it's not the same as... It looked like you guys were using tables and you were sitting with your opponent, but it wasn't clear where. I just saw a photo. I didn't actually kibitz anybody doing it. So I don't know.
How did you find the whole tablet experience when you played in the trials?
I thought it was really helpful, actually. I thought it gave me an advantage because it didn't. There was a pair that we were going to play against where I was intimidated, like that I was not up to the level,
right?
And I felt like just playing with one of them in a room, helped like level the playing field for me.
Right. I think I can I can even guess who that pair might be. Because you had a pretty good run against the Fleischer team, right? It was is that right? It was a really close match last year, and then at the very end they pulled away. Yeah. I mean, another point I will make that I didn't write in the article is that, see, I'm what you might call a bridge tragic. When a tournament is over, I go through every match, just see what happened, at least look at the big boards where the swings occurred. Yeah. And if you look at I wonder if someone can objectively do this analysis. But if you look at the quality of defense in the round of 16 and the round of 8, in terms of games misdefended or, those defenses that just got lucky, that could have easily been a misdefense. I feel like the quality was much worse in the matches on tablets compared to at the table play. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not necessarily saying it's cheating, but it's just, there's just a certain vibe. Often you can just get a vibe. And as the longer you play with someone, the more and more you know them. I mean, sometimes I am, at home and something is being discussed and I, have reservations about an issue, but I'm quiet. And my wife, Sophie, she just knows straight away. She's like, I saw what you did. I'm like, I did nothing. I just sat here, But like, she's known me for so long. She just knows things when I haven't even said anything. She said, I just saw that little, I saw how your, what's this thing called? Your
temple?
Yeah, I saw your temple throb, and I could just tell, and I was like, oh. And if that's what happens in a domestic kind of relationship, a partnership is a relationship. You get used to your partner, they're everything, and there's information that leaks out, perhaps inadvertently. There was a hand. I recently read Zia's book. I recommend it highly. It's called Bridge, a Love Story. And one of the anecdotes in there involves Bob Hammond. So Hammond is on lead to a game and leads a doubleton. Then he gets on play and he continues the doubleton. Then declarer takes a finesse to partner's king of trumps. So they've taken 2 tricks already. And Bobby Wolf is thinking about his play. And if Wolf gives Hammond his ruff, that's the 3rd trick, and Hammond has an ace to cash. So he knows the game is down if Wolf gives him his ruff. And Wolf is thinking, and obviously, one of the things I know that Hammond and Wolf, they used to lead high, even from 3 lows sometimes. Mm. So Wolf is not 100% sure that Hammond has a doubleton. So while he's thinking, Hammond says, at this stage, most players would have the mindset of, come on, give me a rough. What the hell are you thinking about? Just give me a rough. Let's just, that's 1, 2, 3. What else am I leading from? Like, what is this all about? How is it ever right to play a club? Just give me. For most of us, those thoughts go on in our heads. And I feel like when those thoughts go on in your heads, some of that emanates out of your body as well. Doesn't have to be an obvious sense of impatience, but whatever it is, it could be just a sense of tension at the table, and that can come across to partner. So to finish Hammond's story, the point of him telling the anecdote was that he pointed out that if Wolf did not give him a rough, played something else, declarer next played a club, Hammond, who had the ace, had to fly the ace. Dummy had the king jack. Ducking a club was no good. He had to fly the ace and do something, and the hand was still down. And he said, the professional competitor is thinking not that give me a rough. Okay, what if you don't give me a rough? Okay, say you play a trump, and then declare plays. I have to rise ace of clubs to play this and still beat the hand, and that is ultimate, mental toughness. That is, it's right. It's a great little story to me. I found it very touching. That is what toughness is in bridge. And Hammond is, Mr. Tough. He's my hero. He's dominated the world of bridge for so long because of these sort of qualities. Yeah.
You
See his
talked about
book. Yeah,
you,
well, it's
you
definitely worth
talked
reading.
you talked about Bob. Did you bought a copy at the tournament in Chicago?
I bought like 5 copies. I mean, Zia writes the books. Doesn't happen very often. It's nice hardbound. I got him to autograph it. I gave a few copies to my friends, and yeah, they've all enjoyed it. Or at least a couple of them who've read a bit, given me the feedback that they are enjoying it. Yeah.
Did Zia put anything special in the copy for you?
Looks. I think he said something like to my Australian brother, or he's quite charismatic. He is like this.
Yeah.
He's just Mr. Cool in a way, right? I mean, he's like almost he's in his 70s now, so it's hard to sort of see him as Mr. Cool, but he just seems to always have a good presence and he's been nice to me, and so yeah. No,
What is it
seriously.
about Hammond or tell me more about your relationship with Bob?
My relationship with Bob.
Yeah.
The tragedy is I asked him to play one bridge tournament with me, and he said no. I'm so sad. Look, I think it started when I read his book, At the Table,
Yeah.
by Hammond. And that book had a very serious influence on me because of his emphasis on being present at the table, his emphasis on not letting these postmortem type thoughts impact you, and just generally being mentally tough and strong. And I guess I went through a period where I was I was mentally very tough. I was much weaker as a bridge player, but I was mentally a lot tougher than I am now. I went through a period where I just didn't get fazed by anything that I ever did wrong. Like zero. I mean, we all get fazed a little bit, but I went through, and to a large extent, it was inspired by Hammond's book and some of the things he talked about. He said, there's a phrase that I can't forget. It was something like, he said, once something goes wrong, he says, no amount of recrimination, self-flagellation, or excuse making will change what's happened. I mean, it's just a beautiful phrase. All 3 components: recrimination, blame. It was, why did he play a club? Why didn't? And self-flagellation. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Why the hell? This, that, and the other. And excuse making. Oh, I thought he was 6'3", 3'1", and that's why. Half of these postmortems, like people make up, are lies. You do something and then you later on try to work out some rational basis so you don't feel like as much of an idiot. You just try to convince everybody else and sometimes even yourself of a lie, of the reason for why you did what you did. I mean, I am more self-aware now and I try to do less of it, but I did enough of it in my time and I saw enough of it around me to know this is the norm. And those Hammond's 3 points, I mean, that to me, it's a beautiful phrase, and if only we could be as tough as him. There's another anecdote in Zia's book, actually, that's involving Hammond as well, that's also very inspiring. My relationship with Hammond, one day I got a phone call from Bob Hammond. This was about 10 years ago. And I was thrilled about that for like 6 weeks. I got a call from Bob Hammond. That was... that's an aspect. Yeah. No, he's a great. Even this year, he made the U.S. seniors team. And like I said, being a bridge tragic, I go through all the hands. I look at, who's playing well. And Bob Hammond, I tell you, at the age of 84, is playing very well.
I think he's 86, isn't he?
Is he 80? Oh, okay. Well, whatever he is, he is doing...
I think he just had a birthday.
I understand that even the team had a sick pair, so they played a lot. Him and Peter Weichsel played a lot together, and his level of play is really high still. As he wrote in his book, he said, as I get a bit older, and this was when he was much younger than today. He said, I don't crunch the numbers as quickly as I used to. But I have a lot more experience, and that counts for a lot. Yeah, just those little things. Yeah.
He revoked against me
Oh, did he?
in a spin gold match in 2017,
Right.
which allowed me, I think, to make a game that I couldn't have made otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, he was
Right.
playing with David Berkowitz, and the dummy had 3 diamonds, and I had 2. And Bob roughed the third round of diamonds, and I was declared, so he was on my left,
Right.
and the revoke was established, and now I so that was in 2017, and I thought, but
Well,
he's
okay,
still-
things happen. Things happen.
They won the match. I'm disappointed to say. Yeah, I have played with Bob. I played with Bob in a Schaefer game online, not in person. But yeah, I think we won. I think I remember we went in quite some
All right.
detail on some like Flannery or something, and I was like, man, I really hope this doesn't come out because I don't think I've got everything. What was the event that you asked him to play in?
It was just a pair game. I think last year there was a pair game for one of the nationals where I was free. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm surprised that he got you to play all that system because, I mean, I would expect him to know that if you're playing in a casual partnership, system is the last thing you should be focusing on. Especially Bob, who's, his book. The other thing I just remembered, his book was his dedication was something like, to all those 5-card majorites and all the systems that they invented, great systems, but they still couldn't beat me with them. that was his view, playing strong club 4-card majors and dominating the world for a significant period of time. Yeah.
You don't play 4-card majors in your strong club.
No. I mean, I think that is not very common anymore. I think it can be played. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, especially in a strong club context. 4-card majors it can be very dangerous, but it's gone out of fashion. And Hammond plays 5-card majors and standard these days. So I guess things have changed a bit. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back down memory lane a little bit. So I remember you and Peter Gill, when we played together, you were playing with Peter Gill, and you guys took me out to dinner at one of the nationals. And I like to use fraternity analogies sometimes because I was in a fraternity here in my formative college years, and you guys were rushing me up rushing me up to be
feeling you up,
guys to be.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
As my teammates, and you complimented me. You said you think I had promise and potential, which I appreciated, and then it was great. We had that big win, and we had some other good results. But one of the things I remember you said about Peter, I think was in that match when we beat the Kane team, was that if Peter's in a tough 3-0, he's going to get it right.
Yeah, if someone's going to get it right, it's going to be Peter. He is very good at soaking up a lot of information. He soaks up everything. He watches everything, knows everything. His level of technique is obviously very high. And he can somehow keep it together as well. In a way, sometimes, sometimes I find I get a bit lost in all the, shall I do this or shall I do that? Now, Peter is especially good at bringing home those close 3-0 trumps. Yeah, more so than anyone around that I know much of. Yeah.
So you were playing with Peter last summer in the Spin Gold when you beat the Nickel team. I think that was in the round of 32, which was a pretty good scalp. And I'm wondering, you and Peter, this is the first national you guys hadn't played together. You're playing with a new partner, Andy. Was Peter was he rooting you on from back in Australia, or did he hear from him?
Yeah, look, I'm sure he was. I mean, Peter's a great guy. He's a bit, I guess, eccentric in his own way for people who know Peter. But Peter and I go way back. When I first came to Australia, he was quite nice to me. I was just with no selfish agenda or anything. He's very, with a lot of youth bridge players. What Peter used to do, I remember there was a period of about 5 or 6 years where any upcoming youth bridge player who was coming up, Peter would just pick him up and they would play a national. And they would go run really deep. And it was really, imagine you're some upcoming player and suddenly you were playing a table 1, table 2, 1 tournament. It gives you a lot of belief. You learn a lot of things. He's very generous with his time towards the youth bridge community, and even the bridge community, more than the youth bridge community. Like I remember Peter picking me up from the airport, for example. It's the sort of thing he would do. There's not too many people who would, in the modern life who do any of that. So, Andy and I've decided that we're going to start playing together at the U.S. Nationals and try and play for Australia. But I'm sure Peter wished us well. I bought him one of the Zia's books, actually. And I said, he's going to be our rival in the upcoming trials to select the Australian team in a few months. So which will be a new experience, because for the last 10 years or so, I've either played with Peter or played on a team with Peter where he's played with somebody else. I don't think I've played against him for a long time. Yeah, it was one of the reasons I always wanted Peter on the team, because you don't have to play against him. So that will change, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to bring him back on the team for us to all play together with Peter on the team in the future. Yeah.
That reminds me, there's a great snippet. You wrote a book that won the International Bridge Press Book of the Year called Battling the Best. And there's a great thing about Peter when you came down to Australia, when you moved there, and you thought you were like a hot shot, and Peter played with you, but he didn't want to play with you. Like he played with you, like he gave you like he gave you the taster.
He did. Yeah, well, yeah. I guess we'll let the audience read the book to find the full details. Let's get the shameless plug in there, shall we, John?
Yeah, no sweat. And you won another award by the IBPA as the best declared hand in 2019. Yeah. No, I was proud of that. To be honest, when I got an email to say you won the Best Played Hand of the Year award, it happened to be a year. I had this other hand that I had played that year that I thought was. I mean, I suppose I should look up the details of it and send it to you, and maybe you can tag it in your. There was this other hand I had played, which I thought was awesome, something that hadn't happened for years. Things like this happen once every few years. And I thought I'd won it for the other hand, but no. It was quite a special. That's funny.
Yeah, I'll send you a link and see if you can post it.
Okay.
Tied to the podcast. Yeah.
All right. So that was another one of the things that you wanted to talk about was how you guys lost in the trials. So you're not, the Bermuda Bowls in like starts in like a week or 10 days or something, and you're not playing this year.
Yeah, it's the first time that for a while that I'm not playing. And in fact, my wife Sophie is playing on the Australian mixed team. So my job is to stay at home and change the nappies, So how life turns.
Wow.
Yeah, we lost the trials. We were we were heavily favored as the team to win, and sometimes that comes up. Maybe that's why I mentioned it as a subject we could bring about. I'm not sure what context it was. Sometimes it's a burden, the burden of victory, and when things don't go your way, and you're the favorite, it's a heavier burden than in the very first set. Peter and I had a disaster. It went 1-0 trump, pass, 2 club stamen. The next guy doubled, showing clubs. I went pass, and Peter redoubled. Now, I thought that was an offer to play. He thought that was, a rescue thing, and we both, we both had, some basis for our belief based on other similar auctions where we have a clear definition. Even here, I mean, I thought the definition was clear, but he thought it was clear the other way. In any case, that was minus 1,000, and that was just, in the first set of this match, and it just led to, a negative momentum and kind of poor mindset mostly. We both played horribly. I mean, neither Peter nor I, and so did, some of our teammates. I think in our team, only one pair played really well. That would be Andy and Shane. I felt like they played really well. But everybody else, we played way below our average standard. And, sometimes you're meant to lose to just learn a lesson. And for me, it was, hopefully a lesson well learned, because we'll come back this year and reclaim what's ours. What time will tell.
Was this in the finals of the?
Yeah. It was in the final. We had a relatively easy run going into the final, but in the final, so we lost to this team who are representing Australia now. It includes my very good friend and ex-partner Tony Nunn. He's on the team, so I'm really pleased for him.
Yeah.
And then some other players who have also, represented Australia in the past, like Rob Fruworth, Paul Gosney, and then some new players who haven't played for Australia previously. And, wish them well. It's going to be hard for them, but, wish them well. I always enjoy the U.S. trials, though. The American trials are they're such almost a trailblazer for the whole world about how bridge should work. For many years, they had the format of the long matches, the simple, clear knockout format, none of this, round robin Swiss nonsense that just leads to all kinds of random outcomes. And they've inspired even the format for our trials. Now we have the same. We have 8 teams that are invited, and you play 3 knockout matches, 120 boards each. I really like it. It's a great test of skill. If you lose in 120 boards, you probably lost because the other team was the better team. Whereas in 60 boards or 64 or even 96, luck plays such a big role in bridge. Luck plays such a big role. So no, I like the how did you find playing the trials? Because you play every year as well.
I've yet to win a match in the trials. So I've played in it maybe 5 times, and I think 3 times there was a round robin. So you had to get the field down to 16.
Okay. Yep.
And so one time I got out of the round robin. We were in the like the bottom 3, the last 2 matches. So you don't compare after the second to last match to try and in a round robin to try and keep it not have dumping or what have you. And so, but I've never won a match. And like you said, we were close against Fleischer 2 years ago. We were kind of close against in our match this year, but got not blitzed, but beaten pretty badly the last 2 sessions.
Yeah, I think I have a recollection of this as well. Yeah, this was with Debbie and Max. Is that right?
Yeah.
I was following you, John, my friend John.
But in the event 2 years ago, that was a real big confidence booster for me. And I went on to have my best year at bridge because like giving that team, the Fleischer team with Moss and Grew and Fleischer Martel and Woolsey and Bramley, like everything we had was a real lift. And I got compliments from several of the players after the match. Brad Moss said I was a beast. I probably said that on here before, but you know, like that was really cool. And I mean, I was, yeah, I definitely had my best year of bridge.
Just from the confidence.
In the wake of that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like bridge is this unique game where the very top players are not really very good. That includes me. You know, I'm a good player, and I know how bad I am. We're all just hopeless. It's a big pit of hopelessness, and just a less hopeless person wins. I mean, the error rate is. I mean, for example, like you took a parallel to squash, for example, right? Like in. Perhaps the top players are good, but the matches are not long enough. You could make that argument. But coming to in squash, you have all these tournaments, and I can tell you that 8 tournaments out of 10, the top 4 seeds make the semifinals. It's 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in the semifinal. It's just clear how much better the top 4 are from number 5 to 8. Maybe one guy will sneak through. You know, or at least the 3 of the top 4 will be in the semifinal every time. Like they just really raise the bar. And similarly in chess, you know, it's usually the same. You know, maybe it's not 4, maybe it's 5 or 6 players who are just in the hunt. Whereas in bridge, everyone has a chance because everyone has off days. You know, and that's part of kind of. Should be part of one's belief set that people have off days, and when they have an off day, that's your chance to pounce. Because
I also think that there's probably some bias in what you're saying because you play bridge, and so you're intimate with it, whereas you're maybe speaking about squash from a further place, so it's not necessarily.
Yeah, it's possible. The squash players would say, "Oh God, we are all hopeless. I can't believe." I put that ball in the 10. Well, yeah.
I don't think squash players think other squash players are hopeless.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, squash, I play, you and I play squash. We played against each other a couple of times. You managed to beat me more times than really it's fathomable. But.
It's good that you remember that, John. And don't forget it.
Well, you better remember because it ain't happening again.
Ooh.
It ain't happening again, my man.
Yeah,
but
look,
really good squash is amazing to watch, like as an outsider. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching. So I watch every tournament, and people, especially the people I follow, and even women's squash is really good because women's squash you can half relate to it as a player. At the top levels, you can dream that maybe one day you'll play like this. Of course. You or I are never going to play like that ever. But, at least you understand what's going on. But the men at the very top are just something else. They're from a different planet. And it takes a lot of knowledge about squash. It's only when I got better at playing that I realized how good these very top guys are, And perhaps, I guess there are parallels with bridge as well. It's only when you get very strong that you can realize some of the plays and bids there was a bid I saw recently when Australia was playing with. I really liked it. It may not be obvious to the audience, but I saw what he did. It was made by Ben Thompson, who's an Australian player. He had, I don't remember the exact hand, but he had some hand, let's just say he had 4 key cards, ace, 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 king, so that's 15, and the king of diamonds, so that's 18.
Yeah.
He had some hand like that. He showed his hand type, which was, let's say, 18, 19 balanced, and at some point, partner made a slam try.
Yeah.
Now, the theme was that you have this monster hand. You got 4 key cards and an outside king, and most of us would just at this stage bid key card, take charge, and bid the slam. But instead of bidding key card, he took a cubit. And initially my thought was, that's a bit of a silly bid. Like, what's the point of taking a cubit when you're always bidding a slam? But then I recognized that his goal was that he was always bidding a slam. But the reason he took a cubit is that he wanted partner to bid key card. Because when partner bids key card, you show your 4 key cards, right. Partner asks for kings, you show the king of diamonds, and partner knows your whole hand.
Right, yeah.
And it was, and as it was, Renee then went on to bid a grand slam, and they had a great score, which, but that sort of subtlety could easily get missed unless you are strong enough to recognize what has happened. So that's a hand that comes to mind where, yeah, it was a high quality action.
Okay, so I got a question for you.
All right.
This is Australian team. They've never made it into the Bermuda Bowl starts soon. I think it's 24 national teams that qualify in their respective zones. Australia basically always gets a team because of geography.
We're part of Zone 7. We have 50,000 members, so that gives us 2 spots. We have a lot of paying members, and yeah, it gives us 2 spots, and usually the other teams don't contest, so Australia and New Zealand get through. Yeah.
So that wasn't the point to disparage.
No, I know it wasn't, but I couldn't help. I couldn't help plug the fact that 50,000 Australian and New Zealand members pay their membership dues, which people from other zones may not.
That's interesting. Yeah. That is interesting, and I'm glad you said that. So, as far as I know, Australia has never made it out of the round robin in the Bermuda Bowl. Is that correct?
No. Australian teams have done that. We've made in 2008, in 2000, in 1988, they made the semifinal and things like that. So every 8 or 10 years, we get in there.
Well, excuse me, I apologize. Now I've got 50,000 paying bridge members who I owe an apology to.
No. Anyways, where were you leading to?
Well, I was going to ask. This Australian team, if they make it out of the round robin, are you going to be really rooting for them, or are you going to be a little bit like, you're not on, you're annoyed that it's not you?
I think a few years ago, I would have been not even rooting for them. A bit older now, I think they're going to find it very hard. I don't rate their chances very highly. I think this team is going to struggle. But if they did well, I'd be happy. Of course, I would wish it was me. Of course, I would wish. I wish it was me. It has been my goal to play the knockouts of a world championship for a long time, and it hasn't happened so far. And I'm sure we will one day get there. So of course, I would wish it was rather me than them. But if they got there, I would say I would say well done, and I would want them to do well. I can't see it happening though. Yeah. But I still wish them well. I don't mean that. I'm just being frank rather than politically correct. One of my favorite people is Vladimir Kramnik, who's the ex-world chess champion, and he's Russian, and he's used to he talks clearly and straightforward. He says chess is my life, and if I was to lie about chess, that would be being untruthful to myself. I've got to say what I think. I don't want to be politically correct when it comes to something that I've given, decades of my life to.
Yeah.
So he's. I love Larry Kramnik. He's the man. Yeah.
So speaking on that, you have I've seen you working with Michael Rosenberg on Bridge Base. Seen you working with Joyjit on Bridge Base. Let's talk more about your own improvement cycle and how you're approaching that.
Well, about a year and a half ago, I decided to make a conscious effort to fix some of my bridge weaknesses. I've known what they are for a while. So I did a number of sessions with Michael Rosenberg that I found very useful. He was quite complimentary, actually. I emailed him and I said, Michael, I'm looking for some training, and would you be up for it? And he said to me, he said, I have trained people in the past, but never a world-class player like you. That was quite flattering that someone like Michael would say something like that.
Boom.
Well, then he saw my bridge, and then,
He must have needed business when he wrote that email. Did he sell you like a 20-session package?
No, Michael's he means what he says kind of guy.
No,
He's sort of simple, straight guy.
I know.
We had, one of the things I learned from working with him is that I used to have, like, they have these problem hands. You're sitting there and you're thinking, shall I do this? Shall I do that? You have so many different options. And you try and calculate this, you can't calculate all the way, but so you go to something else, you try that, you can't calculate all the way, and you feel like, and then at some point you just do something, right? That's one of my problem areas. And this do something sometimes probably not even the best approach from within what I've calculated. In any case, I used to have this problem, and in my mind I had this vision that the very top players or declarers, people like Michael who've seen it all, done it all in declarer play, to them things come a lot more clearly. They think a lot more crisply, and it all.
Yeah.
So one of the learnings from my work with Michael was that he's as lost as I am, man. His mind sort of goes there, goes here, comes somewhere, and it was quite, confidence boosting that even he has to go through all the hoops, and and at the end of it, maybe he manages to stitch it all together a bit better, but it was really heartening to know that, to see firsthand, how his thought process wasn't this super sharp, clear thinking that I just imagined in my mind. But that's just what bridge is, those sort of situations. And this is not to diminish his ability, which it's just, it was quite I learned quite a few things of Michael. And these days I'm doing a bit of training with this guy called Joyjeet, who's from India. What he does, he's less of a coach. I think Michael was more of a coach. Like Michael would tell me, in this sort of situation, this. I've learned he actually gave me nuggets of information that have become part of my game that weren't. But Joyjeet is more like a trainer. So what I do with Joyjeet is that he digs up through all the ViewGraph archives, all hands where at one table a game made, at the other table game went down. And then he creates that hand on a teaching table and he defends for the opponents. So these are basically difficult, high quality hands, not always with a clear solution. They're very, practical. I found that very useful. For me, I've just been focusing solely on this element. He does, he does other things too, and he's good at, promoting himself, suggesting all the other things, all the other services he offers, which is fair enough. He does a high quality job of it. But for me, it's mostly been it's been only declarer play and these high impact hands. Say you and I, we play a session of bridge. We play 16 hands. It takes us 2 hours. I probably play 4 hands. You probably play 4 hands. Of those 4 hands, probably 2 are just absolute routine. The third one had, maybe a little bit something, and even the fourth one, you'll be lucky if there was something really meaningful. Whereas if you got 16 custom hands over a 2-hour session like I do,
right,
you're getting tested at the edge of your comfort zone, which is what they say is where improvement comes from. And I have found my work with Joyjit also to be beneficial. Yeah, back in the day, Eric Kokish used to be our coach. He recently passed away as well. So yeah, lots of different avenues, for improvement. And it's a subject that really is close to my heart because, I've done some teaching of, good players, not beginners, and I've, had some success with some of the people who I have mentored, and it gives me a lot of pleasure. And one of my favorite memories, because someone asked me, what are your favorite 3 bridge memories? And one of them is playing this tournament with Helena, who was someone I was mentoring, and we just absolutely crushed this Australian national, crushed it. And it's just one of my all-time favorite. It gives me a lot of pleasure when I play a role in somebody else's progress and growth. And to some extent, I've played some sort of a role with Sophie, who's my wife, who's going to be playing the next 2 weeks. So we'll have to see how she goes. Yeah, we'll have to see how she goes.
When is she heading over there?
She's going this weekend. I've been doing some training with her as well. We do about an hour practically every day.
Wow.
Just focusing on process. Because if Sophie's process, and to me in general, most bridge teaching is misdirected at a high. I'm talking like expert level. I'm talking the teaching is pretty good to bring players from beginner, intermediate, advanced, and when they get to expert or near expert, this is where I feel that the quality of input is good, but it's misdirected. It's not the right kind of things are not being sent through. So I guess I should give an example. Okay, let's take. I'll give you a hand like this. Say there's a hand like King Jack 4th, Singleton, Ace Jack 10 5th, and 3 low. Would you mind if I gave it to you as a problem?
No.
So King Jack 4th, Singleton, Ace Jack 10 9 5th, 3 low. It goes a diamond on your left, a spade by partner, double on your right. And let's say everyone's white.
Okay. So I'm 4.
Oh, sorry, a club on your left, your 3 low. A club on your left, a spade by partner, double on your right. And you have King Jack 4th, Singleton, Ace Jack 10 9 5th, 3 small.
Okay. Am I able to make a fit jump?
Let's say you don't have a fit jump. So you could do a mixed raise, you could do a limit raise, or you could do something else.
And everybody's white. And I think I'm just gonna bid a game. I think I'm gonna bid a game.
I think that's the right bid. I think the correct bid is 4 spades. It has so many ways of winning. You have a stiff heart. It could be a sacrifice over the 4 heart bid. It could make. It might push them to the 5 level when you were going down and they are going down. There are so many gains, and you have shape, which gives you some sort of a buffer against being penalized. If they double you, maybe if everything goes wrong, let's just say they don't make 4 hearts, you don't make 4 spades, and they double you. The shape gives you a buffer that your damages are at most minus 300. So there's all this upside in bidding 4 spades, and there's a lot of value in bidding this way on these kind of hands. But yet the kind of conversations that I see on such subjects is, should you make a limit raise? Should you make a mixed raise? Should you do this? Should you do that? Okay, a fit showing jump, of course, has an additional upside that it might help solve a 5-level problem, might help partner bid 5 spades over their 5 hearts. So there is some merit in that approach. But to me, this is sort of example of the kind of learning that isn't always passed on through to to people who are at the expert level or near expert level who are itching to take the next stage, come to, without being too arrogant, let's just say to the next stage, which is, let's say, my level. It sounds a big thing, but to move from, one of the contenders to a higher chance at being one of the contenders is things like this, or in the defense and declare play, certain structures that can work really well. I just haven't seen anyone write these down. I started doing some coaching for a while, but eventually I gave that up. It's quite draining teaching someone as well. It's not easy. One-on-one. It's.
How do you do it with Sophie? You said you do an hour a day.
Well, in the lead up to an event, I just try to not give her anything new. I try to instill good culture. So we typically will play on a teaching table, and I'll play for the other three people. And while the play is going on, so let's say she's defending, I'll just stop her and say, so what is declared shape at this stage? I'll just test her.
Right.
Or she gets on play and she'll play a club. Why did you play a club? What is the shape? What are the high cards? What are the tricks? How are you beating this contract? What is your plan? And I just try to, I think with bridge, we all are very good at playing on autopilot mode. Whereas, when you're strong enough, like Sophie is, you're also capable of backing it up with concrete numbers, And to become a top-level player, you need to have those numbers backing up your feel. Because your feel is going to be right 95% of the time, but that one hand in 20, it's going to let you down. And man, is that a downer when it lets you down. And all you need, and the feel and the numbers, they actually, when you're playing very well, it all happens automatically in your head. You don't need to physically make an effort. But to get yourself into that approach, into that sort of mindset, you have to make a bit of an effort. So I try to bring up that mindset. And so I try to create, we'll do 6 or 8 hands, and that mindset will emerge. And I can see even over the course of the last few days, her process is getting better. And sometimes, I learn things myself, and I'm asking her these questions, and then I realize, oh yeah, that was a clue that I would normally not have seen. So yeah, that's how we do it, and hopefully they will go well. Sophie and Dave went well the last event they played, so hopefully they keep doing it.
Do you see it showing up, this work you're doing with Michael, with Georgette, in the Spin Gold?
Oh, definitely. And Matt Ho as well, who was my sports psychologist.
Right.
I think I did a lot of, it's just little things, I feel I've tightened up a few problem areas. I'm still bad. We're all bad, still make mistakes in my problem areas, but in some extent I have improved. And it's making some sort of a difference. One of my ex-teammates and friends, Paul Gosney, once made a point. We were talking about going to a bridge tournament and people going for a run in the morning. That's what my friend and teammate Nabil is a big fan of. And I am not. I like to have a sleep in and a big breakfast and, show up and play.
Yeah.
But Paul Gosney made the point. He said, it's not what you're doing. It's just the fact that you're doing it. It leads to a good feeling in yourself about the bridge. Just the fact that you're doing something, whether it's showing some sort of discipline in your eating or your exercise.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're doing something, anything, it helps you feel prepared and feel good about what you're doing. And, you know as well as me, like your own personal mindset, the self-talk that's going on in your own head, it's such a relevant factor in our performance. And just doing something, so just having those lessons, I definitely picked up. I mean, I guess to give you a more concrete example of what I picked up, I think I learned from both Michael and Joyjit that when you have these tricky game type contracts, start in a general direction rather than try to solve the whole hand outright. I was expending way too much energy. The classic bridge teaching is take your time at trick one, make a plan, think about this, think about that. And that's already good, but I was already quite strong. But I was perhaps overthinking, trying to solve. My problem is I haven't played as much bridge as my colleagues, at the top levels. I have more, I had a job and they were all professionals. I did most of my learning from reading books and World Championship books. So I'm very good at solving a concrete problem. If you gave me a problem or some position, I'm probably more likely to solve it than a colleague of mine. But by the same token, I haven't had as much at the table experience compared to someone else who's also played 20 years international bridge, because I haven't played as many hands at the table. So I'm good at solving problems, but real life is not really genuine problems. They are more a mix of, a general approach, and a problem point has often to be delayed. So that's the one thing I have changed in my declarer play the last couple of years. Play on general rounds because I have good intuition based on all the years I have played bridge. Use the intuition to take the play along general grounds. Michael has this thing called drive out the ace. He says, if you're in 3 no trumps, drive out the ace. You have some suit like Queen Jack 10-9 opposite 3 small. Play this suit because you got to drive out the king of diamonds and the ace of diamonds. Make plays that drive out the ace. That's for an example of something I've picked from him, and that's something I've changed in the way I play as a declarer over the last couple of years. And there's been an upside to it. There's definitely been an upside to it.
You got to laugh out of me. I was going to ask you about Nabil. Give me a good Nabil story.
A good Nabil story.
I like the one about how much they left on the table against Spectre. Give me another recent Nabil.
All right.
Nabil.
I mean, so I'm not sure how much of a good story this is. But look, Nabil's a pretty good sport. So. So before the Chicago Nationals, as a team, the 4 of us, we decided to go to a place called Carbondale. It's a few hours away from Chicago, and spend some time together as a team, do a little hike, hang out in this nature lodge, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was a 5-hour drive. And what happens, the dynamic amongst the 4 of us, which is Nabil and his partner Michael Wibley, and me and my partner Andy. Yeah. Andy is relatively quiet, doesn't say very much. Once in a while he'll throw a little sharp little punchline. That's kind of his thing, right? And Wibley is like the ultimate teaser. He just loves creating jokes, fun out of nothing. Like out of nothing, you'll just say, hey, hello, Michael, and he'll just turn that into some sort of a joke. Hello, Michael. That's he just. Yeah. So this whole drive, Wibley's just making jokes, and we're just picking on Nabil. It just happens to be his turn, right? So, anyways, Nabil's driving. Right?
Okay. Dad.
So the whole thing, and Nabil's a pretty good sport. He goes along with it, and we all have a good laugh. And then the whole drive's over, and I say to Nabil, hey, Nabil, that was such a long drive. Thank you so much for driving us.
Yeah.
Because I don't like driving, and it's really nice that he did it. And Nabil says to me, he says, stop trying to be like a nice guy, Sartaj. For 5 hours in this car, you had the loudest laughs at anyone. And now, stop trying to put on this fake Mr. Nice Guy. Thanks for driving me. So that was a funny. That was a funny moment. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up too, because we played squash in in the previous national, which was in I don't remember where.
New Orleans.
Oh right, yeah, New Orleans. And so I called you because I was getting ready to pack. I was packing and I was getting ready to come the next day. And I called you, and you guys were like on the drive back from this place.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah.
And you answered the phone, and you were like very coy about your whereabouts.
Oh.
But the team building trip paid off big time.
No, I think we have a very good vibe between us. It's very nice. It's so much fun. Going out, eating out together. We eat out as long as the team knockouts are going on. We always eat out together. We talk a lot of shit. It's a bit like being young boys and just sitting there. I really enjoy the banter with Nabil and Wibbly and Andy. Yeah.
I gave Nabil a little. I said, if we could get to the quarterfinals for sure. For sure, you knew you could do it.
Yeah, that's right. After your run in the Vanderbilt, right? Well, we did it. All right, John, shall we wrap up?
Yeah. Quick question.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No. Okay, I have 10 minutes. I just
okay.
I have this meeting in about 12 minutes, so I just want to make sure that. Yeah.
I would have said like before the Vanderbilt getting to the quarterfinals. That I think I'd rather win the Bermuda Bowl, but I don't know. I think it might be like Spin Gold or Vanderbilt now. What about you?
Which one I'd rather win? I think it's more likely I'm more likely to win a Spin Gold or a Vanderbilt because and a team of 6 Australian players that's going to win a world championship is a remote proposition. Which one would I like to win? I'd probably like to win a world championship. Like when I am this 80-year-old grandfather I one day in 2041 I won a world championship, and my grandkids will go, yes, Grandpa, now can we have some TV? That's so it will be more more of a thing to remember in that sense. So yeah, probably a world championship, but that's I recognize that's remote. Making the cut, making quarterfinals would be the first start, and then you can have your day. You can have a day.
I think world championship probably travels better too. Like for non-bridge players.
Right.
Right. You can tell them you won a major, like Spin Gold or Vanderbilt, but world championship people know what that is.
Yeah, and I think about, like, let's say I just stop and start to think about the good things I've done in my bridge representative career, and the world championship performances are the first one that come to mind. We've done well as a partnership, me and Tony twice and me and Peter once, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. In fact, what should come to mind is us beating Kane and beating Nickel and the run in the Spectre and things like that, run in the Spin Goal, But somehow, I guess that's how the brains are hardwired. The World Championship is the one that comes to mind. So yeah, I think that would be great if it happens one day. Enjoy the process until then is what I tell myself. That's what they tell us, yeah.
Please tell Sophie, your wife, that I'll be rooting for her in Marrakesh.
I will.
Give her my best.
Right.
And that's it. I'm waiting for you to say something wise.
Something grand. No, I have nothing wise. Nothing wise to say, John. Just improve your squash because you're gonna get wasted in a couple of months.
All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It's great to be with you. I always enjoy spending time with you, and thanks for doing it.
Thanks, John. I enjoyed our banter as well. It was good fun. Okay, buddy.
All right.
Bye.